Phenomenal energy within the Earth creates the destructive forces of volcanoes. Lava flowing from its source at 60 miles per hour.
I yelled, "We need to get out of here," but before anybody could really react, it exploded.
Burning hurricanes of ash, searing everything in their path.
I thought we'd be buried, buried in the car. I thought, oh my God, we're gonna die.
Eruptions that melt glaciers. Hurling massive mudslides downhill. Earth's fury has no greater display than the awesome eruptions of volcanoes. Volcanoes are pipelines to the fiery interior of the Earth. Melted rock called magma bursts to the surface as lava, piercing the Earth's mantle like a blowtorch at temperatures that can exceed 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Hawaii, the largest of the Hawaiian Islands, is constantly being shaped by lava. Gases escaping under pressure create enormous lava fountains that can shoot 2,000 feet into the air, sending glittering cascades down steep slopes. Of the estimated 1,500 active volcanoes in the world, 2 are on Hawaii. Mauna Loa has risen over 5 miles above the sea floor through eruptions over several million years. But Kilauea has been the most active this century, drawing millions to this spectacle of Earth's fury. Silent movies let more share the spectacle. This early experiment in color photography captured Kilauea's 1926 eruption, from a 400-foot deep lava lake to massive rifts of fire. Science has also long been drawn to Kilauea. Pioneering volcanologist Arthur Jagger was the first of many who have found this the best place in the world to come in close contact with lava. Today, volcanologists like Carl Thornber still flock to Kilauea.
Volcanoes are a surface manifestation of a very primordial process. One reason that we study volcanoes is simply because we're curious about how the Earth works and where the Earth fits in the overall scheme of things, our solar system and the universe.
Some geophysicists theorize that radioactive elements in the Earth's core keep it in perpetual meltdown. Beneath Hawaii, a column of melted rock called a hotspot rises through the mantle, finally erupting at the surface. During peak eruptive periods, the research can be hazardous, as these geologists are about to discover.
The flow coming from the tube has essentially stopped.
Suddenly, the backed-up lava overflows in a giant red-hot wave.
We gotta get out of here. Get out of here. Come on. Hey, Brian.
The geologists must scramble to safety, because at the lava's source, molten rock can flow downhill at speeds up to 60 miles per hour, creating one of the most spectacular sights on Earth, a Kilauea lava fall. As these rivers of lava cool, a crust forms over the top, creating tubes that can continue underground for miles. Volcanologists keep track of activity in these tubes all over Kilauea.
We're currently flowing at about 500,000 cubic meters per day, and we'll probably see additional breakouts as we head to the eastern side of the flow field. So let's go.
Dr. Thornburg teaches volcanology on a hazardous training ground.
Yeah. A general rule of thumb is if you can approach lava this close, you can step on it. I'll shield my face a bit, and then we grab a good piece and take it here to quench. Sarah?
Scientists like Thornburg get closest to lava while taking samples, which they quickly cool. The resulting crystals reveal what the lava's temperature was when collected and its chemical content. Lava on Kilauea contains basalt, which flows smoothly and becomes black when cool. Close observation helps volcanologists predict what the volcano will do, which becomes critical when lava flows toward human habitation as far as 20 miles downslope from its point of underground origin. By now, it's cooled enough that its speed can be measured on foot. But nothing can stop its destructive force. As long as people have lived here, they've had to cope with lava flows that destroy trails, roads, even entire villages. In 1936, the military bombed a lava river to divert its flow. It didn't work. Newcomers don't understand this unstoppable force, which islanders attribute to the goddess Pele. When the Dressler family moved below Kilauea, they thought they were moving to paradise.
We moved to Kalapana in 1980 because it was one of the most gorgeous spots in the world, and of course it was one of the hottest spots for surfing.
Actually, it was like 8 surf spots within 2 miles. It didn't really bother me that knowing that the volcano was up there. I mean, the entire island's a volcano.
But 6 years after the Dresslers move in, Kilauea has a major eruption. Red-hot lava flows miles downslope, destroying 17 homes in the Dressler neighborhood. Four years later, another eruption sends lava down Kilauea's flanks toward the Dresslers' home.
Lava was continually moving out of the Kupayanaha vent downslope, like water flowing downhill. Lava tends to follow the path of least resistance, and eventually it found its way to Kalapana village.
Once you really saw the volume that was coming into Kalapana at that point, you realized that there was nothing that was going to be saved.
Firefighters try to prevent lava from consuming buildings by cooling the flow with water. This slows the lava down, but nothing can stop it. For days, the flow edges closer, until the Dresslers are told to evacuate. They must remove whatever possessions they can and gather their children.
One day they left to go to school on a Monday morning to find out that they were never going to be back here again, which was a real traumatic situation for a 5- and 8-year-old.
As the lava flows into the night, it moves deeper into the heart of the community. The Dresslers join a vigil as their neighbors' houses burn.
Even though you're seeing your neighbors being totally destroyed, you still have hopes that your dream home's going to be left.
But all hopes are dashed 3 days later, as lava enters the Dresslers' yard, slowly creeping toward the house itself.
There's the house. No zoom. Here's the lava. Coming in, filling the yard up. There goes the house, right there.
Todd and Mary watch their dream go up in flames.
All those memories. A lot of good times.
There are times you're going to be overwhelmed by a feeling of sadness, and you fight that. And then you get overwhelmed with other feelings.
In the end, even the Dresslers' beloved beach is consumed by lava.
The people in Kalapana should have had some idea that their properties were at risk. People who live in the shadow of a volcano should certainly be aware of the risks involved in that environment.
I often think of people that go, well, wow, why did you live down there, you know? And I look at them and I say, you guys missed it. Because it was the best place on earth you could ever live in, and had some of the best surf on earth that you could ever surf. It was just an all-around the best place you could ever be.
Gases from volcanoes may be the reason why Earth is the best planet to live on. These gases helped form our oceans and atmosphere. And the warm water where undersea lava shapes continents may be the cradle of the first life on Earth. But the beautiful places created by volcanoes can draw people to a danger that kills much more quickly than lava. Kilauea volcano sits on a hotspot where lava rises in free-flowing streams, releasing the Earth's violent energy in a steady flow. But most volcanoes are formed where the Earth's crustal plates grind beneath each other. The magma rising to the surface here is sticky and full of gases. It can plug up at the top in a bulge called a lava dome. Tremendous forces build until a 1,200-degree avalanche of ash, toxic gas, and rock hurtles over 100 miles an hour, burning everything in its path. Volcanologists call this pyroclastic flow.
They're ash hurricanes and actually explode downhill. I think amongst volcanologists, these are the most feared kinds of eruptions that we have. And the reason for this is that they just occur so quickly, so violently, and over such vast areas. There's nothing that can withstand the impact.
Lava really is not a big danger. Explosions are what are dangerous. It's like when you have a bottle of champagne, it's full of energy. And when you take the cork out, it erupts, it explodes.
Historically, these are the most deadly eruptions. When Italy's Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, a pyroclastic flow roared with no warning into Pompeii. 20,000 people were seared where they fell for eternity. Still larger ash eruptions in the past have blocked the rays of the sun, triggering climatic changes and mass starvation. And in 1980, the United States would see its own volcanic nightmare when Mount St. Helens begins to rumble. Risa Kelly and her family don't pay much attention. They just move near the mountain in Washington State and are enchanted by the landscape.
Pack the kids and the dog in the car and go find a new waterfall or a new spot to go look and find a view.
But that view is dominated by a volcano, now rocked by earthquakes. Geologists like David Johnston begin to suspect a deadly potential. After a small eruption of steam and ash, a danger zone is established. The Kellys live just outside it.
Nobody ever said, hey, anybody living on this side, you might want to think about leaving. Trust me, I would have left.
The Forest Service evacuates personnel, but tourists flock in. The media encamps. Among them is cameraman Michael Lenau.
I was young and very adventurous. I love shooting nature. And I wanted that shot that was going to help make my career.
And on May 18th, photographers get the shot of a lifetime. An earthquake collapses the north face, unplugging the volcano's mighty force. A deadly pyroclastic flow hurtles out at 700 miles an hour, incinerating everything in its path.
I don't remember hearing a noise or even a rumble, but all of a sudden I was just awake. And I looked and it was dark out. My first thought was, oh my God, it's nighttime. There was that crackling in the air. There was the constant rumbling. Now you could feel the earthquake or the aftershocks, and there was an unsettling feeling about the ground. I have never been so scared in my life.
Risa is just far enough from ground zero to escape the terrible fate of geologist David Johnston, who was killed in the blast. But as the eruption continues, survivors are lost in a choking black blizzard. Another cameraman, David Crockett, records the nightmare.
Oh, dear God. My God, this is hell. I just can't describe it. It's pitch black. Just pitch black. This is hell on earth I'm walking through. One step at a time, if I can just keep walking. I never really thought I'd believe this or say this, but at this moment, I honest to God believe I'm dead.
The Kellys decide to attempt an escape in their car.
It was so Alfred Hitchcock-like. Everything just looked like death. We were as close to the mountain as we could get on this road, and the ground started rumbling again. I thought we'd be buried, buried in the car. The car was our casket, and we were being buried with the ash. I thought, oh my God, we're gonna die.
But as much as the Kellys want out, Michael Lenau and a camera crew want in. They enter the danger zone of the still unstable volcano.
And our plan was to meet up with our helicopter later that afternoon, but heavy magnetism in the ash caused our compass to go berserk, and we just walked around in circles.
With all landmarks obliterated, the crew is lost beneath the rumbling volcano in the high-altitude cold.
First night, we just kept hiking to keep warm, and there was a full moon, so we just kept hiking through the night.
When the second day dawns, they are still lost, with no rescue in sight. But the worst is yet to come. Another major eruption hits as a storm blows in. Ash falls with rain like hot cement.
Your feet would sink all the way through, and it would sometimes burn your feet all the way up to your knees. All you want to do is get onto a road and walk out of there, but they were all destroyed. Everything was destroyed. It didn't seem like we were ever going to get out of there. And that's when I started to really think about the reality of life and death.
On the fourth day, the crew makes a small fire.
I remember staring into this little fire. I kept swearing that I heard helicopters. And so I jumped up and ran over to the edge of the ravine, and I saw the little red lights on the helicopter. And we started jumping up and down, and when I saw them leaving, my hopes for getting out really sunk. That's when I fell down on my hands and knees. I heard this voice speak to me. It said, "Michael, look up to your left." So I looked up to the mountain, and one of the trees appeared to me that was broken in the shape of a cross. And I just kept my eyes focused on that tree. And a few minutes later, I saw the blades of the helicopter rise over that ridge, and it just looked like an angel flying over that ridge. And this one guy wearing this big orange flight jacket gave me a great big bear hug. He says, "You don't know how happy we are to find you." And I said, "You want to make a bet?"
When the ash finally clears, the world sees the effects of the Mount St. Helens eruption. an entire forest knocked down like toothpicks, a mountain missing its summit, and the seared remains of people caught in a pyroclastic flow.
I honest to God believe I'm dead.
David Crockett, the other cameraman lost in the ash, was also rescued. But friends say he suffered emotionally from his lonely ordeal for years. Risa Kelly and her family made it out too. But 16 years later, she returns to the mountain that Native Americans once called Keeper of the Fire. The pilgrimage is to show her children what she lived through.
Oh my God. And we lived over on the protected side over there, and the ash just came right at us. The part that bulged out the side of the mountain just came right at us. We thought lava, it'll ooze down the side, it'll melt some stuff, maybe some floods, but nobody thought it was going to blow up like a bomb. Nothing that we have that's man-made is that powerful. And to think that you were so close to it is just and survived it. It's a gift. It's just amazing to me.
But some were not as lucky, facing the other deadly force on Mount St. Helens, when the glaciers melted, unleashing an avalanche of mud. Like many towering volcanoes, Mount St. Helens had a summit covered with ice. But 6 miles downslope, the piano-playing proprietor of the Spirit Lake Lodge thought he was safe.
There isn't enough material. There's not enough material to come down here and affect Spirit Lake.
Old Harry Truman was dead wrong. As the mountain erupts, the ice and snow flash melt. A massive rock-filled avalanche roars downhill at 180 miles an hour. Within 4 seconds, it obliterates Harry's lodge, burying him under 150 feet of rubble. The mighty mud flow heads down a river valley. By now, it contains an entire forest. Mountain homes are swept away as it roars downstream on a 50-mile path of destruction.
They reported a massive mudslide coming down the mountain south fork of the Tubi River.
Of the 57 people killed by Mount St. Helens, most die in this mud flow, leaving survivors stunned and bereaved.
Just, I don't know. It's hard for me to even realize what has happened.
What has happened is a lahar, what scientists call the deadly mudslides that can accompany volcanic eruptions.
This is a big sucker. This camera location is not safe. I'm leaving right now.
Towering, ice-covered volcanoes are particularly prone to lahars.
Stuff billowing out of it.
It's a danger most people don't know about.
Here, guys.
Like the New Zealanders who happened to tape this eruption during a family outing.
I think we better get the hell out of here.
The family was lucky. The blast was small enough that the lahar didn't reach them. But people under Colombia's Nevado del Ruiz were not protected. They lived in a valley beneath the volcano, despite frightening legends.
Used to call Nevado del Ruiz Sleepy Lion, El León Dormido. And the old people used to say, well, one of these days the Sleepy Lion is going to wake and things are going to happen.
Geologist Fernando Munoz is sent into the volcano with a Colombian team, untrained in volcanology.
We knew that it was very dangerous, but we never realized that it was going to be that serious, that place was going to be hell.
Hell is caused by a minor eruption, unheard in the valley below, that melts a glacier sending a 130-foot-high wave of rock and mud roaring towards the sleeping town of Armero.
The big mud flow buried the city of Armero. More than 22,000 people died that night.
"90% of the townspeople were killed by the mud flow. Most while they slept. Scenes of the aftermath horrified the world. The dead interred in sludge as thick as concrete. The living trying to get out. Their loved ones unable to help. Agonizing rescues went on for weeks as relief workers flew in from all over the globe and volcanologists like Stanley Williams arrived to assess what had happened.
I talked to survivors, those people who had walked a very short distance out of town, and when that mud flow arrived at town, we were able to calculate that it was a wall about 50 meters high, moving about 45 kilometers per hour out of the deep canyon.
It wasn't until residents of Armero began to bury their dead that the legend of the lion sunk in. Armero had been buried by a mudflow only 150 years earlier, but was rebuilt on the same site.
People said, okay, nothing has happened here for centuries, but people forget in the future there will be problems.
Volcanologists were quickly asked, are there other potential Armeros? The answer is yes. 500,000 people are within reach of lahars from Mexico's Popocatépetl. And America's Cascade Range, which includes Mount St. Helens, has more dangerous volcanoes. The picturesque backdrop to Seattle, Mount Rainier, is the most likely to cause deadly lahars. Up toward the summit, geologist Caroline Dreger braves avalanches to assess this volcano's danger.
Oh, a new route. Yeah, it's a new route.
More than 20 glaciers exist at this altitude, so high that it's a training ground for Everest expeditions.
We're on a hot volcano, and yet we have lots of snow and ice here. In fact, we have enough snow and ice to fill the Seattle Kingdom about 2,300 times. That's just permanent snow and ice.
But the volcano doesn't have to erupt to cause a landslide. Volcanic hotspots melt water, which trickles down through rock toward magma and sulfurous gas, where it becomes highly acidic, literally eating away the mountain from the inside.
When the rocks are chemically altered, they're weakened, they're unstable, and because of that, we've had some very, very large landslides on Mount Rainier in the past.
This computer animation recreates an eruption that occurred about 5,000 years ago, when one whole side of Rainier collapsed, sending a 600-foot-high mud flow rocketing down the White River Valley at 50 miles an hour. Native American legends tell of more recent mud flows, and the remains are still obvious in the floodplains beneath Rainier. Geologist Pat Pringle's job is to read meaning into the ancient trees felled by past lahars.
What we find are deposits that contain Mount Rainier grains in them. Pumice, pieces of Mount Rainier lava. These trees that are sitting on the surface now were excavated from about 20 feet of the mudflow deposit. And of course, we now have 100,000 people living on this valley bottom, 200,000 people working here.
It's now believed that the suburban town of Orting could become an American Armero, a possibility that gravely concerns the town's fire chief.
It's like it's that sleeping giant sitting up there, and we are in its path, and should we have another event, it would definitely impact this area. And now there are people living in the way, and we have to prepare for that.
Part of Chief Scott Fielding's preparation is consulting with lahar experts like Pat Pringle to decide how to protect the town's citizens.
And this is kind of a wiggle matching thing here, but you can...
I am believing what they're showing me because they have the proof now that shows me that that mountain is in a condition now. It could do something that would affect us.
The mountain will, and it could at any time.
When we do have a volcanic eruption, we're bound to have red-hot rock rolling across the surface, melting snow and ice. And these pyroclastic flows will transform into lahars.
Plans are proceeding to build an early detection system to warn people of oncoming lahars. But Orting is only 50 miles as the crow flies from Mount St. Helens, and people will never forget that mudflow.
I could only guess what would happen if it was really serious. I don't think you'd have much time to do much of anything. And there wouldn't be any way to get out of Orting because everything crosses over a river, no matter which direction you go. So you just have to go up and hope for the best.
Around the world, millions must now hope for the best as populations continue to grow in the shadow of volcanoes. With absolutely no warning, hell is visited on the village of Heimaey, Iceland in 1973. Iceland is one of the few places on the planet where the Earth's crustal plates tear apart on land the way they do undersea. As lava flows out of a rift more than a mile long, the townspeople are evacuated by the fishing fleet, leaving their homes to destruction. Earlier in the century, the earth cracked open in a Mexican cornfield, forming the full-fledged volcano Paricutin in just a few years.
The last few decades have shown us over and over that the worst disasters all over the world have been at what were not even known to be volcanoes or which were thought to be extinct. The death toll is going up as population pressure has put people into more and more dangerous situations.
Some 28,500 people were killed by volcanoes in the 1980s. On the island of Rabaul in Papua New Guinea, 2 volcanoes erupted at once in 1994, prompting a mass evacuation.
Ash is really particles of rock. It's heavy. It makes the roof collapse, and that's how some of the worst death tolls happen. It's unfortunately quite possible that it could happen someday, that 1 million people could die. There's actually about 500 million people living close to volcanoes around the world.
In the Caribbean Antilles, the fact that the entire island of Montserrat is a volcano didn't trouble its residents. People like Oliver Maeda benefit from the rich volcanic soil and tourist economy.
We was living in Webbs. I built a nice little house there, and I was doing well until after this volcano getting busy, you know.
Fortunes change in 1995 when the tiny island begins to rumble. People recall terrible stories from the nearby island of Martinique, where the volcano Pele erupted in 1902 in a burning pyroclastic cloud of ash that killed nearly 30,000 people in less than 2 minutes. Now, volcanologists like Jill Norton arrive on Montserrat to discover that they have a similar pyroclastic killer on their hands.
We decided at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning that the alert level should be increased. This alert level means that we should be expecting a rapid step up in activity within a few days.
The activity reaches a crescendo.
We're sleeping, right? And this rumble wake us. This thing blocked. And then we get up, me and my family then get up and went outside. When we look at the mountain, and the whole place was dark. lightning, all kind of fog lightning and so forth, flashing. Well, I said, this is it. We're going to die this time, man. My family began to cry. I have to tell them, cool it, take it easy. If I say I wasn't scared, I'm lying. I was shaking.
In the days that follow, pyroclastic clouds spew from the mountain. Oliver's family and half the island's population are evacuated. The effects of a burning ash cloud can be seen on dwellings that stood in its path. The farmland is ruined, and tourists are scared away.
Well, we're going to pick up some more clothing and so forth.
When Oliver returns to Montserrat to gather belongings, he must obtain a high-risk volcano pass to the area. Because the scientists keep uncovering more dangers.
There's a lot of sulfur dioxide coming out of the volcano, which can be poisonous in high quantities, and various other gases as well.
With one wall of the volcano cracking, creating the threat of lava flows, the Mayadas must remain in a refugee shack.
There's 6 of us in this little room here. 4 kids and myself and my wife. We don't even have a bathroom. Right? We have to fill water in pails and go to the back and have a little shower in pail, which is real rough.
Periodic eruptions followed the original blast, sending ash clouds down the island's slopes. Scientists fear this may go on throughout Oliver's lifetime. The Mayada family may never go home again. But in Heimaey, Iceland, defiant islanders refuse to succumb to the volcano's wrath. The entire village worked day and night, removing 3 million tons of ash from the downtown region alone. 3 square miles were added to the island, which is a thriving tourist community today. But across the world, when one of the biggest eruptions of this century occurs, no one knows if they'll survive.
We got to get out of here pretty soon.
As volcanologists reach a lava source on Kilauea, the ground pulses ominously beneath their feet. And this is one of the least dangerous of the world's active volcanoes, which on average kills 1 volcanologist each year. There could be only one reason for confronting danger like this.
I love volcanoes. I got hooked on the fact that studying active volcanoes means that you can look down inside the earth and see what's really going on.
Stanley Williams travels the world helping other countries assess their volcano danger.
I like to think of myself as like the doctor in the emergency room, that I can intervene in the disaster.
But in 1993, on a volcano in Colombia, the doctor became a patient.
It gave us about 10 seconds of warning, which was basically the ground began to shake, rocks began to tumble down, and I yelled, "We need to get out of here." But before anybody could really react, it exploded. I was on fire because the rocks which were flying out were also incandescent. They were so hot.
A rescue team finds 9 people burned to death or blown to pieces. Stanley Williams is among 4 who are injured, but somehow still alive.
I had a hole knocked in my skull and my jaw broken, and I lost my hearing and broke my left leg and shattered my right.
But even after being rushed back to the States for surgery, Williams hears the volcano's call.
When I was lying in the hospital, there was on the news the fact that Mayon was erupting in the Philippines, a really interesting volcano, and I asked my wife, where's my passport? She said it's locked away. She didn't want me going to Mayon, that's for sure.
The Philippines have lured other volcanologists to dangerous duty. In the spring of 1991, Mount Pinatubo begins to rumble. 100,000 Filipinos live in its shadow, along with 14,000 Americans at Clark Air Force Base.
We knew from the geologic history that Pinatubo erupted very infrequently, but the eruptions were always huge.
David Harlow leads an American geological team sent to help Filipino scientists assess the threat of this volcano. The seismograph needles are a bad sign.
Hope they got a version they're gonna drop in there or something.
Geologists are flown up to the volcano to assess its danger.
Yeah, I begin to get nervous now.
First, they find evidence that deadly pyroclastic flows have erupted in the past. Then, seismic data shows swarms of small earthquakes rising toward the volcano's summit. Sulfur dioxide levels are high, and the worst sign is a lava dome, which may be plugging up enormous energy.
That's when we began to take Pinatubo very, very seriously.
A week after Harlow arrives, the volcano belches steam and ash. The scientists recommend the evacuation of families living within 6 miles of the crater. A week of more volcanic activity forces Harlow and his colleagues to make a gutsy call. The volcano will erupt very soon. It's time to evacuate over 75,000 people.
The signal to evacuate was given at dawn. At alert level 4, the volcano could erupt within the next 24 hours.
Now, only a small security force and the scientists remain.
We had just very quiet moments wondering, what have we done? What if this thing now doesn't erupt?
But it does, right on cue.
Grandpa got into in the extreme upper level. Currently about 65, and we just watched it go boom almost right off our skull. Yeah, that's true.
The terror it causes is captured by a fleeing serviceman.
Ah, damn. This is the largest one we had so far. Do we have everybody? We got to get out of here.
Yeah, I seen that thing started going, and I was gone.
I think my underwear is about 2.5 miles that way.
I was jumping up and down, and I was very excited, I have to say. Not only because it was just a great eruption to watch, but because we had forecast it.
The team waits anxiously as eruptions continue for 3 days. Seismicity builds to a critical mass until Pinatubo delivers the largest eruption the Earth has seen in 80 years.
The Pinatubo eruption was the equivalent of a continuous atomic bomb.
The scientists begin to retreat, then hold an emergency meeting.
We decided that we had been hopelessly lacking in courage and scientific curiosity, so we moved back onto the base again to be a little closer to what was going on.
The team bunkers down on the deserted base. Then, seismologist Jim Morey sees something terrifying.
Suddenly, the 2 seismographs between the volcano and our observatory went dead in succession. And so what that was indicating is probably some large flow was coming off the mountain towards us and had destroyed those seismographs. That was one of the times when I first began to think, what am I really doing here?
The scientists finally retreat into an apocalypse. Ash now blocks the sun, turning day to night.
We were just being pelted by cherry-sized rocks. It felt like, the sky was coming down.
By this time, a typhoon had come in. So not only was the eruption going on, but a hurricane was going on.
There was a low roar in the background, which turned out to be this large lahar or mud flow that was going down a nearby river valley. One of my worries, though, as we were driving away was seeing all the people that were out on the streets. We actually stopped and filled up our van with people to help, as many as we could to get away from the area.
As day broke, it was clear that up to 10,000 people had been saved by the prediction. The achievement of a lifetime.
If I had to imagine the one thing that I wanted to contribute to the world, that was it, to be in that position at that time and place.
Volcanic eruptions can happen at any time all over the globe. They are the most powerful reminder that the Earth has a will of its own.
Volcanic eruptions are one of the most amazing natural events, spectacles that occur in nature.
I'll never forget the feeling I had of just how humbled and totally overwhelmed I was by the whole experience.
It was amazing. It was a moment that was as heavy as any moment that you ever, it's bigger than birth. It is complete. It is unchanging. And there's nothing you can do about it.